Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. For those of you that don't know, I'm Tim. Now just excuse me a sec while I get the algorithm friendly preamble out of the way. This is a Metallica guitar lesson. You are going to learn how to play Whiplash on guitar. All of my guitar lessons have guitar tabs. These Metallica tabs are complete and accurate, and you will easily learn how to play Metallica on guitar. Whew. You think that's enough? I think so. Now let's get going with this Whiplash guitar lesson. Here's the intro. The intro starts with a triplet figure, and we're starting on an E power chord. So the 7th fret of the A string, followed by the 9th frets on the D and the G strings. Okay, and we're doing a 4 triplet 1, so a down, up. And we do that 4 times. And the 4th time, we have a quick measure of 3-4 in there. It's 4 triplet 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, and then one guitar, James Hetfield, moves up and hits a G power chord, while Kirk Hammett remains on an E power chord. So the G power chord is sliding up 1.5 steps to the 10th fret, followed by the 12th frets on the D and the G. Okay, so James Hetfield hits that G power chord and lets it ring for 8 measures, and Kirk Hammett hits this E power chord, and he also includes the low E string underneath at this time and lets that ring for 8 measures. Now the reason why these two power chords work together is because we're hearing them relating to an E root. So if you put all of these notes over top of an E root, we have it in the E power chord, we have an E and a B, which is the root and the 5th. So that obviously works. Those are good chord tones. And then moving up to a G power chord, we have a G and a D. So that would be the minor 3rd and the minor 7th as relating to an E root. So all that we really have is a big E minor 7 chord. We're hearing an E minor 7 tonality there. So that's why those two power chords work in conjunction with each other. Now, once we let those power chords ring for 8 measures, they go back into sync together. Both guitars go back to this E power chord. And on the album, I don't hear the octave up on the G string. I don't hear that high E. So you could just go to a 3-note power chord, but you want to keep that low E ringing underneath. Okay, and then we just ring them for 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and we do that 4 times. And then we get into our hook riff. Okay, now the hook riff, it starts off with a little trick that we have to talk about. We hit the 3rd fret on our bottom string, and we're gonna pull off to an open string, but we actually want to have an E power chord fretted while we do that, because when we pull our 2nd finger off of the G on that 3rd fret, we're actually also going to go through the 5th string so that you actually hear the E power chord. So you're going to hit the bottom string on the 3rd fret with your 2nd finger and then pull it off, but make sure that you snap through the 5th string as well so that you hear the E power chord ringing. And now the trick too with that is that you don't want to give that note a full 16th note value. It's just a grace note. It's just a really quick 1. You don't want to have a 1 E. Like you don't want to hear a 1 E and a 2 E and right? That's going to be held too long and it's not going to sound quite right. It's just a 1 and a 2 E and okay? So get that grace note right in there. And then we just want to chug 16th notes. And a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and then we're going to do a little walk down. What we're doing is an A flat, G, but we're just playing the top 2 strings of those power chords. So we're going to play the 7th frets on the A and the D strings, the 6th fret, and then the 5th frets on those A and D. Okay, so it's just 3 little power chord stabs there. Now when you hit the 5th frets, you want to snap your 1st finger off and get a quick open A, and then jump down for your repeat. And we play that a total of 8 times, and then we get into the verse riff. So the verse riff is only going to take 10 seconds to talk about. It's really quick and easy. So let's lump the verse and the chorus together, and here's a playthrough for that, and then we'll talk about it. So as I said, the verse riff, not a lot to talk about here. We're basically just palm muting open E's for 2 whole measures, just straight 16ths. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. And then the last half a beat, we're gonna do a quick stab on a G power chord. Now, on the album, I really only hear the top 2 strings of that power chord again, so you'd want to get the 5th frets on the A and the D strings. Live, though, I see James Hetfield with his hand in this position, stabbing the full chord. So you can do whatever feels comfortable for you or whatever you like to do, but there's little variations like that. Now, that's all there is to the verse riff. Okay, we play that 4 times for the verse, and then we jump up to a C power chord to start the chorus. And the chorus starts with that C power chord on the 3rd fret of the A string. And then we hold that for 2 beats and walk down. So we've got a C, down a half step to a B, and then an open A power chord. And then we want to hit the 2 bottom strings open and hammer onto an F sharp. So 2nd fret of the bottom string, 4th fret of the A string. And then we do kind of a horse gallop rhythm, going to an E power chord at the end. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Okay, now that plays 3 times, and on the album you want to put a palm mute on all that except for the last E stab. So on the album it's like this. Now without the palm mute, just to end it and give it a really good strong finish there. Now there's a few variations that we can talk about. If you want to play it exactly like it is on the album, that's pretty cut and dry. They play it the same as I just did on the album every time. There's no variations, it's just the same. But live, they've started to play around with it, and it's kind of cool. You might want to work these variations into your own playing just to make it a little more interesting for yourself and for anybody that's listening. So the first thing that they've started doing is just adding more strums on that C power chord that we start with. Instead of just holding it for 2 beats, they put in a couple more. Okay, so you can just put in that. A couple more strums there. Now, another thing that James Hetfield has started to do as well is to put a little trill in on the A string at the end of the measure 1. So instead of just going C, C, B, A down to the F sharp, he does this C, C, B, and then a trill down to the F sharp. So up to speed, it would sound like this. Okay, really slow, here it is. Okay, one more little variation that I've seen too is instead of just hitting an open E at the very end and then just starting the repeat, I've seen James Hetfield put a G in there quick too, which is pretty cool. It would be like a 4N. So here it would be slow. Just a little quick G in there, 4N, and then the repeat. So, and away it goes. Now, I think that about covers the chorus. So putting all those little variations in there makes it a little more interesting for sure to play. So you might want to mess around and even come up with your own variations now that you see what can be done with it. And now we just have to talk about the interlude section that comes in before the solo. And here we go with that. The interlude section starts with a series of power chords. Again, we're really outlining these chords D, D flat, C, A flat, G. But again, we're just playing the top 2 strings of these. So nice and easy, really. We're just barring the strings. So bar the 7th fret on the D and the G, down to the 6th on the D and the G, down to the 5th frets on the D and the G. So it's just a little chromatic walk down on strings 4 and 3. And then do that same chromatic walk down on strings 5 and 4. Okay? And then we get into the riff. Okay, so what we're doing there is pulling off between 7 and 5 on the A string, down to the 7th fret on the low E, and then bar the 5th frets on the A and the D, okay? And then come back down to the 7th fret on that low string, and then bar the 5th frets on the A and the D again. And the picking pattern there is important too, just to really stay in time. The picking pattern that they use is we start that pull off with a down, another downstroke on the bottom string, and then an up for that bar, then another down, and then another up. And then 4 downs as we get palm muted E's. That's all it is. That just repeats around and around. And then we get into the solo. So there's no need to play through what the rhythm does underneath the solo because we've already covered that. It just starts off with this same riff that we just covered. And after we played that 2-bar phrase 8 times, we hit a couple of E power chords. So that 8th repeat, it would look like this. Okay, just hit an E power chord, let it ring for 1 whole measure, and then a quick stab on beat 1, and then we just get back into that hook riff again for the last 1/3 of the solo, and then we can repeat back into another verse after that. So we've already covered what happens underneath the solo. Now let's just quickly do the outro, and we've covered all the rhythm parts, and we can do the solo. We finish our final chorus and then we get into the outro. So that final chorus segs into the outro by using that first half of the chorus riff. And now the outro. So we are just bouncing back between E and F sharps here. So we go E power chord, F sharp power chord on the 2nd and 4th frets. And then it's going to do an up or a down, up, down. And then just E, F sharp, E. And we play that 3 times. 4th time, exact same, except just ring that open E. Play it 1 more time. But just hit that F sharp twice. Instead of going back to the E, that last and final time, you just hit the F sharp twice at the end and the track ends. And that's really all there is to that riff, but you might want to experiment with the palm muting. On the album, they don't palm mute any of it, but live, they've started palm muting a lot of it and experimenting with the palm mute too. It's not consistent, right? I kind of think it's cool just to palm mute the first time you go to the F sharp, just to get a couple of chugs there. So it'd be like, that kind of sounds cool, but you could palm mute the whole thing. Right? I've seen them do that too live. So you can experiment with this, you know, have some fun with it too. It has changed slightly over the years how they perform it. So you can definitely have some fun with it. Now that covers all the rhythm parts, and here is the solo. The opening lick of this solo was interesting to figure out. I know that everybody who teaches it just says it's a repeating 5-note figure, right? Doesn't change at all. You're just pulling off from 17, 15 to 12 on the high string, down to the 15th fret of the B string, back up to the 12th fret of the high string. Okay, so I could have just went with that, but I figured, you know what, that doesn't sound right though. There's more going on there than that. And, you know, once again, I always listen to these things at half speed, and when I slowed it down, it definitely sounded like there was different notes in there going by. But I didn't quite have it figured out. I knew that I had a friend who had the official tab book too. So I said, hey, do you mind if I take a look at that and just see what the official tab says? And when I took a look at that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. That doesn't seem right either. But the more I started studying this and the more I was listening, the more the official tab book actually was correct. And you know what? The official tab book is very close. It's not quite 100%, but very close. As I was listening and studying it more and more and more, all of a sudden something popped out at me. And if you listen enough, this will pop out at you too. You can hear the bottom note of the riff changing, and it creates this little melody like. So that bottom note is changing, and you can hear that if you listen to it enough. So I'm going to play it slow for you and really accent the bottom note, so that you can hear that note changing and you'll know what to listen for. And then go back and listen to the album and put it on loop if you can until that note really pops out and you'll hear it. Okay, and yeah, once that popped out at me, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I hear it. But it took a little while, and you know, I can see why everybody thinks that it's just a repeating thing. But once you hear that note bouncing around, you'll hear what I'm saying. It's a pretty cool little lick, actually, well thought out, well executed too. So just to go through that lick quick, we are going to be pulling off along the high string 17, 15 to 12 all the time, but just that bottom note, like I said, is going to change. So the first time you go down to the 15th fret of the B string, and then the second time go down to the 14th fret of the G string, then back to the 15th fret of the B string, then back to the 14th fret of the G string. And now for measure 2, we go to the 15th fret of the B string again, and then the 12th fret of the B string. And then the 17th fret of the B string, and then back to the 15th fret of the B string. And then our third measure, we're just going to hit B flat, the 15th fret of the G string, for all 4 beats. And then, so nice and slow, that whole thing is going to look like this. And now we get out of that with a bend here on the 17th fret of the high string to the 15th fret of the B string. And then you can hear a slide as he slides down to the 10th fret of the B string to the 7th fret of the G string. Okay, and live too, I've seen him do a little double stop there. It's kind of a cool thing to do. Okay, and then we slide back up to the 12th position, and he kind of just gets some noise on the recording right after this. You just kind of rub the strings as you're sliding up into position. And then you get the 12th fret on the D string, and then bar the 12th fret on the G and the B strings. Okay, and we just hit that 3 times. And then we want to roll the 3rd finger of the 4th time here to hit the 14th fret on the D string, and then the 14th fret on the D or the G and the B as well. So, and then back to the 12th bar on the G and the B strings. Okay, and then we do a 14 to 12 on the D and the G, and then bend the 14th fret of the G string up, and then go up to the 12th fret of the B string, 15 to 12 pull off. And then you want to do a quick little trill between 12 and 15 on the high string. And then come back down to the B string, 15, 12. Bend the 14th fret on the G string again. Back up to the 12th fret of the B string, 15 to 12 pull off on that B string. And then 14 to 12 on the G string. And slide down because we're going to go all the way down to the 2nd fret. But that whole little lick is going to look like this. And then we get into our next lick, which is bending the second fret of the G string up. And now we bend that, hold it for 2 beats. And then you want to experiment along that string to get a pinch harmonic. And then you just want to hit it for beat 3, 4, and then you'll do a quick little drop it and bend it again for beats 4. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Then you hit it one more time on beat 1 of the next measure. Okay, and then you want to release it, pull off to an open G, down to the second fret of the D string. And then we hit the second fret of the D one more time, open G, and then we get into this little hammer pulling thing up the G string. So we're going to hit every fret twice. We start on the second fret and we just hit that. And we pull off to the open G twice. So the second fret, up to the 4th fret, up to the 5th fret, back to the 4th fret, up to the 5th, 7th, 9th, 7th, 9th, 10th, 12th, 10th, 9th, 7, and then finish that with a 9th fret bend on the G string there. It's all on the G string. So really slow, it's going to look like this. Okay, now to get into our next phrase, we want to repeat that 9th fret bend, and then we do a 9 again to 7 on the B string, do a 10 to 7 pull off on the B string, down to the 9th fret on the G string, back up to the 7th fret of the B string, repeat a 10 to 7 pull off, and then do a 10 to 7 pull off on the high string, back to a 10 to 7 pull off on the B string, 9 on the G string, back up to the B string 7, repeat a 10 to 7 pull off, and come down to the G string, 9 to 7 pull off, double pick the 7th fret after that, repeat that 9 to 7 pull off, come down to the D string, 9 to 7 pull off, down to the A string 9, back up to the D string 7, then 9 to 7 on the D string pull off, and now we want to do a 9, 7, slide down to 5, and then double pick the 7th fret on that low string. So that phrase would sound like this. Now he slides down, and he slides, it's kind of a random slide. It's not really a note that I can really specifically hear. It's more just a random slide to get himself into position where he's in position at the 7th fret. Okay, so we're gonna slide into position, double pick the 7th fret of the D string, then up to the 9th fret of the D string, double pick the 7th fret on the G string, 9 to 7 pull off. Now what you wanna do is double pick that 9th fret, but we're going to slide up to the 12th position here, where we hit the 14th fret, up to the 12th fret, bend the 14th fret on the G string, up to the B string 12th fret, and now we want to do a little repeating pentatonic thing they like to do, where we're going to do a 15 to 12 pull off on the B string, 15 to 12 pull off on the high string, back down to 15 to 12 pull off on the B string, 14 on the G, up to 12 on the B, and that little thing repeats for the last 3 beats there, where we go 2 E into 3 E into 4 E into 1. Okay, so that whole phrase from where we slide into the 7th position is going to sound like this. Okay, so we end that with bending the 15th fret on the B string, and we hold that for one whole measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just bend it and slide down with it. And then this is where we get into our final third of the solo. So that final third of the solo is messing around with some unison bends. And you don't have to worry about getting these couple of measures 100% exact. I probably didn't play them exact how it was on the album, because it's really just a highly improvised sort of figure. He would never play this the same way again, but I'll just show you what I was doing. So we start with the high string at the 12th fret, and then the 15th fret on the B string, and we bend that B string until it sounds in tune, okay? Now what we want to do is hit that unison bend, and then up pick, so we get the 12th fret on that high string, and then do another unison bend, so. Okay, so I come down and hit a bend on the 14th fret after I do 3 unison bends. And then I come back up, do another unison bend, and then I pick it 3 times. And then I do another 2 unison bends, down to the 14th fret, another 2 unison bends, and then just hit the 14th fret unbent, and then that gets us into the next measure we're out of it. So altogether what I played was this. Okay, and then we're into our next phrase, which is a really quite easy pentatonic repeating thing that he really likes to do. It's pretty much in all of his solos, so you should really master these next couple of measures. We're going to pull off from 15 to 12 on the high string, 15 on the B string, back up to 12 on the high string. Okay, and then we're going to go repeat that 15 to 12 pull off on the high string, down to B, the 15th fret on the B string, back up to the high string. So there's 2 beats of that. Okay, and then we repeat on beat 3, we repeat that 15 to 12 pull off one more time, come down to the B string 15 to 12 pull off, and then double pick that 12 and repeat the 15 to 12. So that measure is going to sound like this. Okay, and then we get into this repeating thing down on the G and D string. So we're pulling off from 14 to 12 on the G string, go down to 14 on the D string, back up to 12 on the G string. And we just do that for 3 beats, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. And we just end with a 14 to 12 on the G string. So those 2 measures together. Okay, now we end this solo with a few measures of a chromatic thing where, again, you don't have to be exact with the frets that you're hitting. But you're just going to be working up the high string with fingers 1 and 3. Okay, that's what he uses to trill here. And your picking is just going to be hitting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just down pick 8th notes. And then you're just going to be hitting, every down pick is going to be hitting the 3rd finger, where you're going to quickly pull off to the 1st and open. So to really get the feel of that, you could really just stick on, well, you could pick any frets that you want really, but you could just stick on a couple of frets to begin with and just get the feel for that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and once you get comfortable with that idea, then you can start moving it up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just move it up, and don't be concerned with the frets that you're hitting. It's just a, totally chaotic, random mess of chromatic notes that we're doing. And you want to do 3 full measures of that, and you want to build it up so that in the 4th measure, you're going to go 2 E and a 3, 4, 1. Okay, so you end on the 22nd and 19th frets, 22 to 19, and then 22 to 19 one more time. So 2 E and a 3, and then just bend that 22nd fret up a whole step to E. Okay, so nice and slow, that whole thing would kind of be like this. And there's the solo. Thanks so much for checking out this Whiplash guitar lesson, guys. Remember that I'm doing a tutorial on every Metallica song from every studio album, so subscribe and become a Metallica expert. I also cover a lot of material from your other favorite bands. Links can be found in the description. Let me know what you want to see by dropping me a comment, and I'll see you next time.